The fall of Xander, the dire situation. On the distant planet Xander, nestled within a vibrant nebula, hope was dwindling. The Xerian colony, once a thriving hub of trade and culture, now lay under siege. Swarms of Kegel warriors descended like locusts, their grotesque forms blotting out the sun as they ravaged everything in their path. Buildings crumbled under relentless bombardment, and cries for help echoed through the streets as civilians fled in terror. Captain Zorax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Valiant, his heart heavy with despair. He gazed at the tactical display, watching as his forces were systematically overwhelmed. The Kegel were not just invaders. They were predators, reveling in chaos and destruction. Each flicker on his screen signaled another loss, another soul snuffed out by their merciless advance. Desperate measures. "Captain, we're losing ground," shouted his first officer, Talia, her voice strained with urgency. Zorax clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "Redirect all power to forward shields. We must hold them off at all costs." The crew scrambled to follow orders, their faces etched with fear and determination. But deep down, Zorax knew that their efforts might be futile. The Kegel had superior numbers and an insatiable hunger for conquest. As he watched another squadron of his fighters get obliterated by Kegel plasma fire, a sense of hopelessness washed over him. How long could they withstand this assault? Would they even survive to see another dawn? Arrival of hope. Just when all seemed lost, a distant rumble echoed through space, a sound that sent chills down Zorax's spine. He turned to see massive ships emerging from hyperspace, cutting through the void with an elegance he had never witnessed before. "Admiral Hawkins, this is Captain Zorax. What's your status?" came a voice over the comms. Zorax blinked in disbelief as he recognized the insignia on the approaching vessels, the United Earth Federation. Humans, they had come to aid them in their darkest hour. "Zorax, we've been monitoring your situation," came Admiral Hawkins's voice, steady and commanding. "We're here to assist you against this Kegel threat. The battle begins." With renewed vigor, Zorax rallied his troops alongside their newfound allies. As human ships joined the fray, they unleashed a barrage of firepower that illuminated the dark expanse around them. The sleek lines of their vessels contrasted sharply with the grotesque forms of Kegel ships. It was a dance between elegance and brutality. Zorax watched in awe as human fighters darted through enemy lines with astonishing agility, their weapons tearing through Kegel hulls like paper. "They fight like demons," he muttered under his breath. The tide began to turn as Admiral Hawkins coordinated strikes with precision. "Focus fire on that Kegel mothership," he ordered, pointing at a colossal vessel looming ominously above Xander. The combined might of human and Xerian forces surged forward, pushing back against their oppressors. For every fallen comrade, there was now a glimmer of hope, a chance for survival against overwhelming odds. A momentary victory. As explosions lit up space around them, Zorax felt a surge of adrenaline course through him. They were fighting back. With each destroyed Kegel ship, he felt his spirits lift just a little higher. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, victory was within reach. The last remnants of Kegel forces began to retreat into the abyss from whence they came. Cheers erupted throughout both fleets as they realized they had survived this harrowing encounter. But amidst the celebration, unease gnawed at Zorax's mind. This victory felt like merely an opening act in what was destined to become a much larger conflict. Who were these humans? What did they want? And could they truly be trusted? As he turned to Admiral Hawkins on his bridge, Zorax couldn't shake off these questions lingering in his mind. Questions that would soon demand answers in a galaxy teetering on the brink of war. This marks the end of Part 1. The fall of Xander. Unlikely allies. The aftermath of battle. The Valiant hung in the vastness of space, its hull scared but intact. Captain Zorax leaned against the command chair, his heart still racing from the adrenaline of battle. The Kegel fleet had been repelled. but the cost was heavy. He glanced around the bridge, taking in the faces of his crew. Some were weary, others were marked by grief. They had fought valiantly, but many had not survived. Damage report. Zorax barked, breaking the silence that had settled over the room. Structural integrity at 70%, replied his chief engineer, a young Xerian named Nira. We've sustained heavy damage to our aft shields, and life support is fluctuating in several compartments. Zorax nodded grimly. The battle had been fierce, and though they had emerged victorious, it was a hollow victory. He turned his attention to Admiral Hawkins, who stood nearby, surveying the tactical display. Your forces fought well, Hawkins said, his voice steady. But we need to regroup and assess our next move. A growing unease. Zorax felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The humans had come to their aid when all seemed lost, yet he couldn't shake off a lingering suspicion. Who were these people? What did they truly want? The United Earth Federation had intervened with impressive firepower and technology, but Zorax wondered if their motives were as noble as they claimed. Admiral, Zorax began cautiously, while I appreciate your assistance, I must ask, what are your true intentions? Why reveal yourselves now? Hawkins met his gaze with an intensity that made Zorax uneasy. The Kegel threat is not just yours. It's a galaxy-wide issue. Their expansion must be stopped before it consumes everything in its path. We've been monitoring their movements for some time. Zorax absorbed this information, feeling both gratitude and apprehension. The Kegel were indeed a menace, but what role would the Federation play in this conflict? Would they leave once the immediate threat was neutralized? Planning for the future. As they discussed strategy in the briefing room, Zorax couldn't help but notice how seamlessly Hawkins commanded respect from his crew. The humans operated with precision and efficiency that was admirable, and somewhat intimidating. We need to strike at their stronghold on 6, Hawkins proposed, pointing at a holographic map of the Kegel territory. If we can eliminate their queen and disrupt their command structure, we might cripple their forces. Zorax felt a surge of determination at the thought of taking the fight to the enemy. I agree, but we will need every soldier we can muster, Xerian and human alike. Then let's prepare our forces, Hawkins replied with a nod. Gathering forces. In the days that followed, both fleets worked tirelessly to prepare for their upcoming assault on Zix. Training sessions were held where Xerian soldiers learned to work alongside human troops. Zorax watched as they exchanged tactics and strategies. It was a sight he never thought he would witness, a unity forged from desperation. Yet amidst this camaraderie, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Some of Zorax's soldiers whispered doubts about relying on human technology and methods. They feared becoming too dependent on their newfound allies. One evening, as Zorax walked through the barracks to check on morale, he overheard a heated discussion among his troops. "They're hiding something from us," one soldier insisted. "How can we trust them?" "Without their help, we'd be dead," another countered. Zorax stepped into view, silencing the conversation with his presence. "We are all fighting for our survival," he said firmly. "The Kegel are our common enemy. We must unite if we hope to stand against them." A new weapon. During one of their strategy meetings, Hawkins introduced an unexpected element: cyborg technology. "We've developed advanced cybernetic enhancements for our soldiers," he explained, showing them images of human soldiers outfitted with powerful exoskeletons and augmented limbs. These enhancements could give us an edge in battle. Zorax listened intently as Hawkins described how these enhancements improved strength and agility, while providing additional protection against enemy fire. "We could integrate some of your best warriors into our program," Hawkins suggested. "Imagine Xerian soldiers enhanced with our technology." While intrigued by this prospect, Zorax felt a flicker of hesitation. Would they lose their humanity in the process? But as he looked around at his weary crew, many of whom had lost friends and family to the Kegel, he realized they needed every advantage they could get. "Let's proceed with caution," Zorax finally said, weighing his words carefully. But I believe we should explore this option. Training cyborgs. The following weeks saw an influx of activity as both human and Xerian forces began training together for their counter-offensive on Zyx. Cyborg enhancements were introduced gradually. Volunteers stepped forward from both sides, eager to gain an advantage against their foes. Zorax watched as some of his best soldiers underwent transformations, receiving mechanical limbs or enhanced vision systems that would allow them to see further and react faster in combat situations. However, not all were enthusiastic about these changes. During one training session, Zorax overheard two soldiers discussing their reservations about becoming cyborgs. "I don't want to lose what makes me me," one soldier said quietly. "But think about it. We'll be stronger, faster," replied another enthusiastically. Zorax intervened before tensions escalated further. "This is not about losing who you are," he said firmly, but kindly. "It's about enhancing what you already possess, your courage and determination." A test mission. As training progressed, Zorax felt a mix of hope and anxiety about their upcoming mission on Zyx. They planned a test mission to assess how well the cyborg enhancements worked in real combat scenarios. The day arrived when they would deploy a small team led by both Xerian and human soldiers to scout Kegel defenses on Zyx's outskirts. As they prepared for departure, Zorax felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This was uncharted territory for them all. "Stay sharp out there," he cautioned as they boarded their ships. "We're counting on you." As they descended into Zyx's atmosphere amidst swirling clouds of ash and debris from previous battles, tension filled the air like static electricity. The mission goes awry. Upon landing near a Kegel outpost, everything seemed quiet at first glance, a deceptive calm before the storm. As they began their reconnaissance mission, however, chaos erupted when they triggered an alarm system within the outpost. Kegel warriors flooded out from hidden entrances like angry hornets disturbed from their nest. Fall back, shouted one of the human officers as gunfire erupted around them. In that moment of chaos, Zorax watched as cyborg-enhanced soldiers sprang into action, moving with incredible speed and agility as they engaged Kegel warriors head-on. Yet even with these enhancements, they faced overwhelming odds. More Kegel reinforcements poured into the area than anticipated. "Regroup. We need to hold this position," Zorax shouted over comms as he fought alongside them. Despite their best efforts to push back against the swarm of enemies closing in around them, losses mounted quickly among both Xerian and human forces alike. Reflection. As they finally retreated back to safety aboard the Valiant, Zorax felt shaken by what had transpired during that mission. The loss of life weighed heavily on him like an anchor pulling him down into despair. Sitting alone in his quarters later that night, a glass of water trembling slightly in his hand, he couldn't shake off feelings of doubt about whether integrating cyborg technology was truly worth it after all. But then again, what choice did they have? As darkness enveloped Xandar once more, a new dawn awaited just beyond its horizon. A dawn filled with uncertainty yet brimming with possibility. This concludes Part 2, Unlikely Allies. The Cyborgs Awaken. The Dawn of a New Era. The atmosphere aboard the Valiant was charged with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Captain Zorax stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the tactical display, which flickered with the remnants of the recent battle. The Kegel threat had been momentarily quelled, but Zorax knew that this was merely a pause in a much larger conflict. The humans had proven to be formidable allies, yet the question of their true intentions lingered like a shadow over his thoughts. In the days following their victory, Zorax convened a meeting with Admiral Hawkins to discuss the next steps. They needed to prepare for the inevitable Kegel retaliation, and they needed every advantage they could muster. "Admiral," Zorax began, his voice steady but laced with urgency, "we need to discuss the cyborg technology you mentioned. How quickly can we implement it?" Hawkins leaned forward, his expression serious. "We have a prototype ready for testing. It enhances physical capabilities and mental acuity, but we must choose our candidates wisely. Not everyone will be suited for this transformation. Selecting candidates. As they spoke, Zorax felt a sense of responsibility weighing heavily on him. Who would be chosen for this risky procedure? The idea of merging flesh with machine was daunting, yet it offered hope, a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark time. We should hold voluntary trials, Zorax suggested. Those who wish to enhance their abilities should be given the chance. Hawkins nodded in agreement. I'll arrange for our medical teams to assist in the process. We'll need to ensure that each candidate is psychologically prepared for the changes. Within hours, word spread throughout the ship about the upcoming trials. Soldiers from both the Xerian and human forces gathered in the hangar bay, their faces a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The trials begin. On the day of the trials, Zorax stood before a crowd of eager volunteers. He felt a surge of pride as he surveyed his troops, brave souls willing to risk everything for their home and their allies. Today marks a turning point in our fight against the Kegel, he declared, his voice echoing through the hangar. We stand at the precipice of a new era. Those who choose to undergo this transformation will not only gain strength, but also become symbols of our resilience. One by one, soldiers stepped forward to undergo evaluations. Medical teams conducted thorough assessments, ensuring that each candidate was physically and mentally fit for the enhancements. Zorax watched as friends and comrades volunteered for what could be life-altering procedures. Some were eager, others hesitated, uncertainty clouding their eyes. Transformation Day. After rigorous evaluations, the day finally arrived for the first round of transformations. The hangar bay had been converted into a makeshift medical facility, equipped with advanced technology brought by the humans. Zorax stood by as soldiers were led into chambers designed for enhancement procedures. Each chamber was filled with intricate machinery that hummed softly, casting an otherworldly glow. Remember, Zorax said to those waiting in line, this is about enhancing your natural abilities, not replacing who you are. As each soldier entered their chamber, Zorax felt a mixture of hope and dread. Would they emerge stronger? Or would they lose something essential in the process? The first transformations. The first soldier to step out was Lieutenant Jarek, a skilled marksman known for his bravery in battle. As he emerged from his chamber, Zorax's breath caught in his throat. Jarek's enhancements were immediately apparent. His limbs appeared more muscular and defined, while subtle mechanical components glinted beneath his skin. His eyes gleamed with newfound intensity. How do you feel? Zorax asked cautiously. Like I can take on an army, Jarek replied with a grin that radiated confidence. Encouraged by Jarek's success, more soldiers followed suit. Each transformation brought forth enhanced abilities, greater strength, faster reflexes, sharper senses. Yet amidst this excitement lay an undercurrent of fear. Whispers among soldiers questioned whether these enhancements would come at too high a cost. A test mission. With their ranks bolstered by cyborg enhancements, Zorax and Hawkins decided it was time to test their new capabilities in a real-world scenario. They planned a reconnaissance mission deep into Kegel territory, a dangerous undertaking that would require every ounce of skill and strength they had gained. As they prepared for departure aboard the Valiant, Zorax felt a sense of camaraderie among his troops that had grown deeper through shared trials and transformations. Stay sharp out there, he reminded them as they boarded their ships. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for every soul on Xander. The team consisted of both Xerian and human soldiers, now united as one force ready to face whatever awaited them in enemy territory. Into Kegel territory. As they approached Kegel territory, tension filled the air like static electricity. The landscape below was scarred from previous battles. Burnt earth and shattered structures marked their path as they descended toward an abandoned Kegel outpost. Remember your training, Hawkins instructed over comms as they landed stealthily outside the outpost's perimeter. We're here to gather intelligence, not engage unless absolutely necessary. Zorax led his team forward cautiously. Every step felt like walking on eggshells as they navigated through debris-strewn corridors, filled with remnants of past conflicts. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the outpost, a clear indication that they had been detected. Chaos erupts. Fall back! Fall back! Zorax shouted as Kegel warriors poured into view from hidden alcoves, clad in menacing armor that glimmered under flickering lights. The newly transformed soldiers sprang into action. Enhanced reflexes allowed them to move faster than ever before. Plasma bolts erupted from their weapons as they engaged in fierce combat against overwhelming numbers. Zorax fought alongside them. He could feel adrenaline coursing through him as he dodged enemy fire and retaliated with precision strikes. The cyborg enhancements granted him strength beyond anything he had known before. He felt invincible. But even with these advantages, they were still outnumbered. A turning point. Just when it seemed like defeat was imminent, Jarek unleashed an impressive display of enhanced agility, leaping over enemy lines and taking down Kegel warriors with swift efficiency. "Keep pushing forward," Zorax shouted as he witnessed Jarek's incredible feats of strength and speed invigorating his comrades around him. With renewed determination fueled by their enhancements, and driven by a shared purpose, the combined forces began to push back against their foes. The tide began to turn as Kegel warriors faltered under relentless fire from both human and Xerian troops working together seamlessly, a sight that filled Zorax's heart with hope. Aftermath. As silence fell over what remained of the outpost after fierce fighting subsided, Zorax surveyed their surroundings carefully. The cost had been high, but so too had been their victory. They gathered intelligence that would prove invaluable in future engagements against Kegel forces, a testament not only to their newfound strength, but also unity forged through adversity. Yet even amidst celebration lay lingering doubts about what lay ahead. Could they truly trust these enhancements? Would reliance on technology lead them down paths better left unexplored? As night fell over Xandar once more, a new dawn awaited just beyond its horizon. A dawn filled with uncertainty yet brimming with possibility. This concludes Part 3. The Cyborgs Awaken. The Siege of Zyx. Preparing for battle. The atmosphere aboard the Valiant was electric with anticipation as Captain Zorax and Admiral Hawkins prepared their forces for the assault on Zyx, the Kegel stronghold. The stakes were higher than ever. They were not just fighting for survival, but also for the future of their worlds. Zorax felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him as he looked over the assembled troops, Xerian and human alike, ready to face the enemy together. "Listen up," Zorax called out, his voice booming across the hangar bay. "Today, we strike at the heart of the Kegel menace. Our mission is to eliminate their queen and dismantle their command structure. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every innocent life threatened by their cruelty." A roar of approval erupted from the soldiers, their faces set with determination. Zorax felt a surge of pride. They were united in purpose, ready to confront whatever horrors awaited them on Zyx. The descent. As the Valiant entered Zyx's atmosphere, alarms blared throughout the ship. The hull shuddered under the impact of Kegel anti-aircraft fire, but Zorax remained resolute at his command station. "Return fire," Hawkins ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Target those defenses." The ship's weapons lit up as they unleashed a barrage of plasma fire against Kegel installations dotting the landscape below. Explosions blossomed across the surface, illuminating the dark clouds that hung over Zyx like a shroud. "Admiral, we're approaching the landing zone," reported the helmsman. "Prepare for touchdown." Zorax gripped the arms of his command chair tightly as they descended through layers of smoke and debris. He could see Kegel fortifications sprawling beneath them, a twisted maze of organic structures that seemed to pulse with life. Ground assault. With a jolt, the Valiant landed in a clearing surrounded by dense foliage. The hangar bay doors opened wide, revealing a scene of organized chaos as soldiers rushed to deploy. Zorax stepped forward, his plasma pistol drawn, ready to lead his troops into battle. "Form up," he shouted. "We move out on my command." As they exited the ship, Zorax took in the sight before him. A mix of Xerian warriors in traditional armor and human soldiers clad in advanced combat exoskeletons. Together, they formed an unbreakable line, ready to push into enemy territory. "Stick together and watch each other's backs," Hawkins added, rallying his own troops alongside Zorax's forces. Breaching the stronghold, the group advanced through thick underbrush, moving cautiously toward their target, the Kegel fortress looming ominously in the distance. As they approached, Zorax could see sentry drones patrolling the area, their mechanical eyes scanning for intruders. "Take them out quietly," he whispered to his team. "We can't alert the entire base." With practiced precision, they moved into position. A Xerian sniper took aim and fired, disabling one drone with a silent shot. The others quickly followed suit until only silence remained. As they neared the fortress walls, Zorax's heart raced with adrenaline. They were close now, so close to ending this nightmare once and for all. Inside enemy lines, the entrance to the fortress was heavily fortified with Kegel warriors patrolling in shifts. Using stealth and strategy honed from countless battles, Zorax led his team through narrow passages and hidden routes until they finally breached the inner sanctum. Inside, they found themselves in a vast chamber filled with pulsating organic technology, an eerie sight that sent chills down Zorax's spine. The walls seemed alive, thrumming with energy as if feeding off something dark and sinister. "This place is a nightmare," one soldier muttered under his breath. "Stay focused," Zorax replied sharply. "We need to find their queen." Confrontation with darkness. As they navigated deeper into the fortress, they encountered fierce resistance from Kegel warriors who fought with ferocity unmatched by any foe they had faced before. Plasma bolts whizzed past them as both sides clashed in brutal combat. Zorax fought valiantly alongside Hawkins. Their combined skills proved effective against overwhelming odds. With every fallen enemy, however, he felt a growing sense of dread. Something dark awaited them at the heart of this stronghold. Finally reaching an enormous chamber adorned with grotesque statues depicting Kegel victories and conquests, they found her. The Kegel Queen, a towering figure radiating malevolence. "You dare intrude upon my domain," she hissed, her voice echoing through the chamber like thunder. "We dare because we must," Hawkins shouted back defiantly. "Your reign of terror ends today." The final showdown. The air crackled with tension as both sides prepared for battle. The Kegel Queen unleashed her minions upon them while simultaneously launching powerful energy blasts that illuminated the chamber in flashes of green light. Zorax fought fiercely alongside his comrades. Every strike was fueled by rage and desperation to protect their worlds from this monstrous creature. But even with their combined strength, it became clear that defeating her would not be easy. "Focus fire on her," Hawkins commanded as he dodged another blast from the Queen's weaponry. As plasma bolts rained down around them, Zorax felt an overwhelming surge of determination rise within him. They had come too far to turn back now. Failure was not an option, a sacrifice made. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, the tide began to turn as Zorax charged forward, a cyborg soldier enhanced beyond measure, his speed and strength allowing him to reach the Queen's side before she could react. With one swift motion, he plunged his blade deep into her side, a desperate gamble that sent shockwaves through her body. The Queen let out an ear-splitting shriek as she staggered back. Her minions faltered in confusion at their leader's sudden vulnerability. "Now, finish her," Zorax shouted as he rallied his troops for one final push against their enemy. With renewed vigor fueled by Zorax's sacrifice, the combined forces surged forward, plasma bolts flying as they overwhelmed what remained of her defenses. Victory at last. In one final act of defiance, the Kegel Queen unleashed a last-ditch attack, but it was too late. With one final blast from Hawkins' capital ship above, The chamber erupted in blinding light. When it cleared, Zorax stood amidst rubble and silence. Around him lay remnants of battle, their victory hard-earned yet bittersweet, as he surveyed fallen comrades who had fought valiantly alongside him. "We did it," Hawkins breathed heavily beside him. A mixture of exhaustion and relief washing over both leaders at once. Yet even amidst celebration lingered shadows. What would become of their worlds now? Would this victory be enough to deter future invasions? Reflection on sacrifice. As they emerged from darkness into light, the realization hit hard. Sacrifices had been made, not just today but throughout this conflict. And though victory had been claimed, the cost weighed heavily on each heart present. Zorax turned toward Hawkins, meeting his gaze with newfound respect forged through shared trials, and spoke softly yet firmly. "Let us honor those who fell today by ensuring our alliance remains strong." Hawkins nodded solemnly. A pact formed not just between two races, but between two worlds united against tyranny.